Look, the Orlando Magic are next up in the NBA, and they're going to be the beast of the Eastern Conference in the next 3 to 4 years. You look at Goga Batadze, you look at Anthony Black, and the way they're developing their young guys. Anthony Black is looking better day in and day out. He's coming in, giving really good minutes on defense. He's also driving to the rim, finishing at the rim. And I know he could develop a three-point shot at some point, but you're looking at growth and confidence, and Anthony Black has all that, and he's only going to get better as he gets more reps in the NBA. You look at Patazze, he was getting some minutes last year. He has a bigger role, especially with the injuries. And again, Orlando is just so good. I was watching against Milwaukee and just the way they play defense and the leadership by Jalen Suggs. He was out there holding himself accountable when he made mistakes, encouraging his young guys. And they're doing all this right now without Franz Wagner and without Paulo Banchero. Wait until they come back. Sure, you could say Orlando needs to work on their three-point shooting, but what they're doing on defense is they are building their identity. I think they're the number one defense last year in defensive rating, and I think they're fourth this year. They started slow, but sometimes when you come into a regular season, you get punched in the mouth, or you're just going through some lows, and all of a sudden you turn it back up. And that's what Orlando's been doing ever since. I think after the first 2 weeks of the season, it happens. Stuff like that is going to take place. They're a young basketball team. But you got your defense, and then you got your home court. I know they lost to Cleveland last year, but they didn't lose at home at all. They're 10-0 right now at home. And what I love about Orlando is they're building something here, and they're only going to get better as they gain experience. And you get Paulo back, you get Franz back. I know Caldwell Pope has not been shooting the ball that well. That's disappointing, but he's still a really good leader in the locker room that has a lot of value. But if Orlando does get better at three-point shooting, it's only going to unlock this offense even more. I think that can be fixed internally. I really do believe that because we've seen players not shoot that well from three and then improve in that area. So for Orlando, if I'm looking at this team, like they're well coached, they bring it every night, regardless of the injuries going on. They're out there fighting, playing hard. I mean, they took Milwaukee down to the wire. It took Dame taking over that game to pull it out. But the experience that guys like Anthony Black are getting in those situations, Bataze, Jalen Suggs now having to be the number one option and having to step up is huge for this basketball team because you're going to look at these injuries with Franz and with Boncaro, you're going to go, okay, yes, it was tough to go through that process, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because our young guys who don't get a lot of playing time got experience, gained confidence. Anthony Black has a bigger role. Things like that are going to take place with the Orlando Magic. Of course, Mo Wagner is a beast off the bench. He comes in, just gives you energy, does the right things. He's at the right spots, getting easy buckets, and he's just an energizer bunny. I love that about him. I think the only guy you might want to move off of at some point is Cole Anthony. I think he's a great player off the bench. He's a good spark plug. But I think Orlando could use another shooter, and I think that's what they're going to target at the trade deadline, just to improve some things with the spacing. And I think a guy like if Anthony Black develops a three-point shot, good luck stopping this team. If Franz Wagner and Banchero get to like 36, 37% from three, good luck stopping the Orlando Magic because the way they can lock you up in defense. And again, Jonathan Isaac didn't even play against the Bucks. I think he has some injury going on, if I recall correctly. He can come in for like 10 to 15 minutes a night and just lock a guy up, make things hard for him, and then frustrate him. And then you bring your starting lineup back in. So they have a lot of different pieces. They got depth here. So Orlando's getting better. And, imagine when Boncaro and Franz are back. Franz took a leap when Boncaro went out, and you were just waiting for Franz to take that next step. So I think he's got some confidence. Obviously, Paulo Banchero had that 50-point game. I was looking at Paulo like, okay, we could see a top 20 leap this year, and I think that's still going to happen. I still think Paulo could be a top 10, top 5 player someday. And there's no doubt about it because he's got that type of talent in him, and the potential's there. So, again, I know people talk about the three-point shooting 24/7, but when you can play defense like them, you stay in games, you have the athleticism, it makes it harder for the opponent to get those type of shots off. Now, would I love to see Orlando get more shooting? Of course, because they went through a struggle against the Bucks. But when you don't have your two best guys, that's going to happen. But then they got back in the game. So they're building character. They have resiliency on their side. That is only going to bode well for them this season and future seasons to come. And when they take that leap, I'm saying when they're like the Thunder in the East, they're just blowing teams out, wiping you off the court. You have no shot against them. I'm not going to be surprised because you're looking at the roster, getting more experience. And if one of these guys like Anthony Black, Paulo, and Franz have a consistent jump shot and they're shooting, pretty well from the three and in the mid-range, it's going to be lights out because Anthony Black, I believe, is 6'8", so much size out there. And then they force a ton of turnovers. I mean, I think they're either fourth in forcing turnovers, which gets them out in transition for easier baskets. They got length. They make it tough on their opponents. So I love what their coach is doing with the identity of the Magic because they're stressing defense. That's what they're going for. They're not trying to be this fancy, oh, you want to outscore your opponents. Obviously, that's important. But if you can be really good on defense, you can lock folks down, and you've got no shot of scoring, that is something that you look forward to in the future. So I think the Magic, they're going to be next up. I won't be surprised either by next season or the following season or like maybe 3 seasons from now because they're a young basketball team. You're going to go through growing pains and you got to factor in injuries and wonder if this is going to be the final roster when they become championship contenders. I don't know yet because anytime you're going through the process of being a contender, you're trying to figure out what is going to work best for your roster. Do you need to improve along the edges? You got your star players figured out. Boncaro and Franz Wagner, that is figured out. But do you keep Wendell Carter around? Do you keep a guy like Cole Anthony around? What about Jonathan Isaac? You got to figure things out, but Orlando has time here. I just like the resiliency they're showing early in the season. They could have just said, you know what, we're gonna lay it down. We're gonna just give up. We're not gonna fight like we're fighting right now because we don't have our 2 best players out there. They're like, no, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna make it tough on our opponents. We're gonna battle every night. Just shows the character of this team and Mosley's ability to coach this team up and get them ready. And it's gonna bode well for them in the future. I'm telling you, like this experience right now, it might be hard, but Orlando's a scary basketball team. I mean, what I saw against the Bucks, I'm like, Orlando's next up in the East. There's just no doubt. And in the NBA, they're going to be a championship contender sooner rather than later. And I won't be surprised if they're contending for championships and winning a few of them in the future because they're building the right foundation. They're putting the right pieces around Paulo and Franz, and they're developing their players, which is so important, especially with the new CBA rules. Thank you guys for watching today. Magic fans, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think about the regular season so far. Obviously, the adversity they're dealing with when it comes to Franz and Paulo. How soon do you think they're going to be championship contenders? I'm very curious about that. And what do you think they need to improve on this roster? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.